Christmas decorations can be super expensive, but we all know lumber can be just as expensive, if not more expensive than decorations. In this video, I'm making 3, maybe 4 or 5 time Christmas decorations, just using some fence picket wood and this wood from the 1x10x10 board that I got for 16.5 bucks at my lumber yard down the road. As in all of my YouTube videos, I have free plans to every single build in this video in the description below. So first up, we're gonna take a fence picket. This is a 6 foot long, 5/8 of an inch thick by 5.5 inches wide fence picket. We're gonna take it over to the table saw, set the saw to 3/4 of an inch, and we're gonna rip one nice slice off of one of the edges all the way down. I'm actually gonna run it through first on one of the sides, get rid of that rough factory edge, and then I'm going to set my saw to 3/4 of an inch and rip down one side of the board. We've got ourselves a nice 6 foot long by 3/4 of an inch thick strip. We're gonna take it over to the miter saw here and start cutting some nice pretty angle pieces. You know what they say, never cut angles until you measure them the right way. We're at the miter saw. We're gonna start by cutting a 7-inch piece. So grab your good old handy tape measure here. You're gonna need a pencil. First, I'm gonna take off the factory edge on this piece here. So now we're gonna cut our first piece at 7 inches here. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna set the saw to 30 degrees, and we need to cut 4 3¼ inch pieces at this 30 degree. We want one side to be at 90 and the other side needs to be at 30 degrees. It doesn't matter which side it's on because we're gonna be able to flip it over. I do want one side to be at 90 and the longest point of that 30 degree angle to be right at 3¼ of an inch. 3¼ of an inch? I think it's 3¼ of an inch. 3 inches and a quarter. It's not 3¼ of an inch, I know that for sure. This part can be a little tedious because you're gonna move the saw back and forth, but that's just the way it goes, I guess. All right, so we have our 7-inch piece and we have our 4 3¼ inch long pieces that have our 90 degree on one side and our 30 degrees on the top. We're gonna set these over on the table for now, and we're gonna take the rest of the strip. We need 12 1-inch long pieces with 30 degree angles. So I'm just gonna demonstrate that to you right now, so there's no confusion. I think what I'm gonna do though is set up a stop block so that I don't have to make a measurement 12 times. So I'm just gonna clamp a little board here, that way I can just keep sliding it up and make the cuts. All right, we've got our 12 pieces here. You're gonna have some leftover 3/4 inch strip here. So we need to now rip this down to 1/2 of an inch on the table saw. Do this carefully. Ripping thinner boards on a table saw can be a little bit more dangerous. Highly recommend getting something like a gripper. This is not sponsored. The gripper has this 1/4 inch piece here. So if we're ripping at 1/2 of an inch in between the blade and the fence, it's a lot safer if I use this gripper to push down on it and guide it through. It's a lot more secure than even, say, a push stick. So now I'm gonna take my 1/2 inch strip that I just cut on the table saw there, back over to the miter saw, and I'm going to readjust my fancy little stop block there. And I'm gonna cut 12 1¼ inch pieces, again at that 30 degree angle. So just, why don't you come on over here and I'll show you. I cut 12 of these, I cut 12 of these. I have an extra one just in case one of them breaks. We don't need this strip over here. And then over here we have, I feel like I'm talking to you guys about some food options we have. And over here from southern France, we have a nice fence picket. If all these little pieces start to get a little confusing, don't forget there are free plans in the description. Laid out really well, high quality. I spent a lot of time on them to make sure you guys aren't confused about putting this together. If you guys want to build it in the first place. Hopefully you do. I think it's pretty cool. Let's start putting it all together here. That way you guys know how cool it actually is. Story time. So full disclaimer here. Normally I try to build all of my builds with the most common tools people would have in the shop. I've been wanting a 23 gauge pin nailer for a while now. That looks bad. Don't point it at yourself. This way. There's nothing in it, nothing in the chamber, okay? You could probably get away with some inch-long 18 gauge brad nails for this build, but because these are such small pieces and probably gonna be doing more of these intricate builds in the future, I went ahead and got myself a 23 gauge pin nailer here. I'm gonna be using 1 inch long pin nails, but again, if you only have an 18 gauge brad nailer, totally cool. So if you just use some wood glue and some CA glue with a little bit of activator, you could probably get away with assembling this without any nails at all. First, I'm going to take my 7-inch piece here. I'm going to lay it out and I'm going to find the center marks. Now what we're gonna do is we're going to line the shorter pieces we have here right up on that line on both sides here, just like that. Put a dab of glue right here, right on that center mark. We have ourselves a little bit of a shape here. Gonna take some 120 grit sandpaper and just gently go over this. So actually skipped a step on this. Before you attach these 3 1/4 inch pieces to the sides, you actually want to take your 7-inch piece here and take a 1/4 inch drill bit or Forstner bit, and we're gonna make probably about an inch deep hole in one of the ends. And the reason for that is we're gonna be mounting this in little bits. Can you guess what it is yet? We're getting closer. But just in case we mess up the hole somehow or the wood splits, then we wouldn't have wasted all 5 of the pieces, we would have only wasted 1. So I would recommend when you build yours, before you attach these 4 pieces on the sides of your main pillar here, take a drill bit. I'm gonna use a drill press. You don't have to use a drill press. You can go ahead and use just a regular drill. So we're gonna work from the center out. So first we're gonna take these little diamond pieces that we made. First make a mark so we have our center again. We're gonna start making a little design just like this. It's up to you what kind of glue you wanna use. I'm just gonna put a dot of glue on the back of all these. Drive 1 or 2 nails in. Pretty self-explanatory here. We're just gonna put these around. I do want to get 2 of these on one side. 3. Well, that's not right. Is it supposed to do that? Okay, I think I'm gonna call an audible here because initially I wanted to do 6 of these pieces in the middle, but I don't like the way that looks. So what I think I'm gonna do is just do 4 like that. You guys play with the angles and you can make any shape design you want. Just take this as a bit of a, some inspiration for you. Okay, now we're just gonna take the rest of these thicker pieces and work our way. We're just gonna take the widest part and line it up in the middle at the very end of the piece here. The wood glue is really what's gonna structurally hold this thing together. But this is a decoration, so hopefully no one's gonna be sitting on it. All right, with that done, we're gonna take these other pieces we have here. We're gonna start building a tower from the middle here using these pieces. We're just gonna come straight. No, I'm kidding. We're actually not gonna be doing that. We're gonna be putting them probably where you guessed I was gonna put them. We're gonna put them right down here. I'm gonna put a little dab of glue on both the ends here and tack it together. Okay, we have our little snowflake ready to go. We've got the hole on one side of it. While the glue is still drying, again, these pieces are pretty small and intricate, so they might move around a little bit, especially if you don't have a pin nailer at first. So I'm gonna set this face down, put something heavy on top of it while I go ahead and start working on the base for this thing. T-post pounder. So taking the remainder of the fence big back over to the miter saw, I'm gonna cut 7 inches off the end here. Then I'm gonna take it to the table saw and then rip it down so that my final width is 2 3/4 of an inch. All right, we're gonna find the center of the piece we just cut down. I'm gonna drill down almost all the way to the bottom here. I don't wanna go all the way through, but I want the hole to be as deep as I can go. If you stop at a craft store or your local hardware, lumber yard, normally you can get some dowels. This is a 1/4 inch poplar dowel, probably like $1.50. So we're gonna cut this down, pick whatever length you want. You're gonna cut it down though so that this is gonna hold your snowflake up. Or leave it the full 48 inches if you want and set the snowflake right on top. Nope, never mind, that's not gonna work. That's gonna be a little bit too tall, but you get what I'm saying here. All right, you guys sand it as much as you want. Put the finish that you want on it if you want to put finish on it at all. I've seen a lot of decorations everywhere. They don't have any finish on them, so whatever look you're going for. But basically now we're just gonna add a little bit of glue in the hole in the bottom. You don't need much. And then a little glue on the hole on the snowflake itself. If you got your hole nice and straight when you drilled, you should have it upright like this. So there you go. Nice rustic little snowflake for you there. Great Christmas decoration, or any winter decoration for that matter. Let's go ahead and move on to build number 2. So for this next build, we're gonna need 4-inch wide strips at 15 inches long, 14 inches long, 13 inches long, and 12 1/4 inches long. And I'm gonna be doing all of that using this 1x10x10 I got for $16.50. And this is super long, a little bit too long to put through the table saw at once, so I'm gonna make those cuts first on the miter saw, cut them all down to size, then we can take them over to the table saw here. We can rip them all down to the 4-inch width that we need them at. I also need a strip cut at 38.5 inches. The next step is where it gets really complicated. Really complicated. So, it's not really that complicated, don't worry. These are Christmas decorations, man. They're supposed to be fun. Joy and cheer to all. Okay, that was easy. We got all the pieces cut that we need. Love the smell of sawdust in the morning. It's actually not morning, it's evening time right now, but I just love the smell of sawdust. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. Okay, this part is super easy. At least I think it is. I've actually never built this before, so we're gonna find out together if it's easy or not. We have our 4 different pieces here. We're just gonna cut some 45-degree angles on the miter saw with these. Basically, I may have forgotten something in the plans. I love it when it works out like that. We're totally fine. We don't need to recut anything. Actually, it worked out perfectly. We didn't mess up, or I didn't mess up. No, you guys are watching this. If I'm going down, you guys are going down with me. We have 12 1/4, 13, 14, 15. You're gonna take 1 of each of the lengths, okay? And we're gonna set them off to the side. We're not gonna touch those. And all we need to do with these is we're going to cut a 45-degree angle on one of the sides. Gonna set these off to the side now. Now these other 4 are gonna take a little bit of measuring here. A shortcut I just thought of is if you make the mark on the shortest one on the top, right, at 8 1/4. I'll zoom in so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Mark the shortest one at 8 1/4 right here. Make sure that they're all flush on the side, and then all you'd have to do is make one angled miter cut at 45 degrees because every one is gonna line up underneath it since they're all like stair stepping. Okay, so we have our angle pieces here. We're gonna start with the long ones first, so flip the piles over. So the long ones are on the bottom. Hopefully all these measurements worked out. We're gonna find out together. Nope. No. Uh-oh. Why isn't this work? What did I do wrong here? There we go. That scared me for a second. I thought I was way off. This is what it should look like. There's that, and we're just gonna do a little stair step thing here. These angles are throwing me off, man. There we go. Bear with me, guys. Doing this upside down too. That shouldn't really make a difference though, should it? There you go, it's like a puzzle. We're just gonna make a big arrow pointing to me. That's what we're building right now. No, I'm kidding. It's a Christmas tree, if you guys hadn't figured that out by now. And this is our trunk, which is gonna go up the top here, our other longer piece. And then we're gonna use this piece for the base on the bottom. First though, before we get to the base and stand it up, let's go ahead and get this attached. I'm gonna put a little bit on the end grain there. Squeeze it in, adding a little bit of glue on all the surfaces that we'll be touching. Not too much, I don't want a ton of squeeze out. And since I know this is a 45-degree angle, I'm just gonna take my speed square, put it up against it, slide it up against the board, and then I can make sure that that's good. Let's check the bottom too to make sure my angles are on down there. But I'm just gonna make a couple marks so that I can line it up. And then we're gonna shoot some of these 1 1/4 inch 18 gauge brad nails in. I'm gonna do one on the top first. That way I can line the bottom up, pivot it, get it lined up with the mark I made. Make sure you don't shoot the nail in between the seams or too close to the seams here because we don't want to chunk out the wood. All right, and there you have it, guys. We have the giant Christmas tree. That was super easy to make. So we're taking the other 4-inch strip that we cut for the trunk. The other side of that, we're going to take it over to the miter saw. I need 2 pieces cut at 10 inches, and then I need 2 pieces cut at 4.5 inches. All right, to attach this base, all we're gonna do, add some glue, shoot a couple nails in. Then we're taking the other piece and we're gonna put it the other way. A little bit of glue, add a little bit of glue. You got your base. Gonna go ahead, take my sander, go over everything with 120 grit, 150 grit, soften up the edges, get rid of anything that could cause a splinter. Well, there you go, guys. After sanding it down, we have ourselves a pretty cool little Christmas tree. Let's go ahead and move on into the genius number 3 idea, the third genius idea I have for Christmas decorations builds. This is what we're gonna be using for the next build, a scrap 4x4 piece. Let's go ahead, head over to the miter saw and make our first cuts. All right, so we're gonna take our 4x4 and I'm gonna need to cut 4 pieces actually. I'm gonna need to cut one at 7 inches, one at 5 inches, one at 3.5 inches, and then I'm gonna take this smaller scrap block that I have. I'm gonna make a 2-inch by 2-inch piece that is 2.5 inches tall. So I'm gonna cut it to size here on the miter saw and then we'll take it over to the table saw and finish sawing it down there. Just take a piece of scrap that you have from the Christmas tree earlier, or if you have other 1x6 scrap laying around. We're gonna cut a piece on the table saw that is 5 inches long and 4.5 inches wide. All right, I'm gonna use a drill press because I have one. If you don't have one, no worries, just use a drill and a 1/4-inch Forstner bit. We're gonna pull out the dowel that we used on the previous build with the snowflake, and they're going to be incorporated into these blocks that we just cut on the miter saw. So what we're gonna do is take our 1/4-inch Forstner bit. We're gonna drill about a 3/4-inch hole into the top of the bottom piece. Then we're gonna drill a 3/4-inch hole in the top and bottom of the middle piece. Then we're gonna drill a 3/4-inch hole in the top and bottom of the top block. And then this little piece, we're gonna drill a hole 3/4 inch deep just on the underside of this one. And then for this piece, we're drilling all the way through it. Again, we need to make sure that the holes are drilled in the center of all of these pieces. All right, so now I'm gonna take the poplar 1/4-inch dowel that I have, go over to the miter saw and cut 4 pieces at 1.25 inches, and then 1 piece at 2 inches. You'll understand in a second here why I'm cutting all these little pieces and making all these holes. You just gotta trust the process. Have I ever steered you guys wrong before? You don't have to answer that. It's actually easier when you're cutting little dowels like this to not cut all the way through and just break the remainder off, because otherwise they fly all over the shop and then you gotta go looking for them. Okay, we're gonna take our bottom piece here, should have 1 hole in it, right? We're going to add a little bit of wood glue, put just a dab in the hole here, and we're gonna take one of the 1.25 inch pieces, push that in there, and we're gonna take our middle 5-inch piece. You put the glue in the hole, it'll actually work to your advantage instead of putting it around the dowel, because then when you slide the wood on top, just gonna scrape it all off the dowel. And then we're just gonna add a little bit of glue around the side too. It's a little cold out here right now, so the glue's a little frozen, and then we're just gonna line it up, slide it right on top. Maybe use a little force to get it down where it needs to be, and then exact same thing. Line it up. Scratch that. We cut way too many little dowels. We don't need. You only need 1, 2. I don't know what I was thinking. Just cut 2 of these 1.25 inch dowels, and then 1 of the almost 2-inch dowels here. Just like that. Slide the hat on. I bet you guys can't guess what this is gonna be yet. I'm gonna cut 1 more dowel at 3 inches. I've also got the scrap piece of 1-inch poplar dowel. You can get these for a couple bucks at the lumber store as well, or any craft store, honestly. I'm gonna cut 1 at 1.5 inches as well. All right, so for about 30 minutes, I put this clamp on it to make sure that all the glue, all the pieces were, adhering together well. And then I forgot to turn my mic on. So I'm gonna go over what I did to make these couple pieces here. I took a 1/4-inch Forstner bit and I drilled in at an angle at the bottom or like lower left quadrant of the top headpiece here for the snowman, which, by the way, in case you guys didn't know, that's what we're building here, a little snowman. Then I took that longer dowel that I cut and I just dry fitted it in here just like that. And no, it's not a toothpick, we're actually gonna make a pipe. So that little 1-inch dowel, or 1.5 inch long by 1-inch dowel that we cut, I took a 1/4-inch Forstner bit and on the lower backside drilled, probably about a 1/2 inch deep hole. And then I took a 1/2 inch Forstner bit. If you don't have Forstner bits, that's fine. You can just use a regular drill bit. I drilled in the top. You don't have to do this. I just thought it'd be cool because we're making a pipe for Frosty here. And now, without using any glue, because we're just dry fitting and we have to paint all of this before we put it together, and Frosty's got a little pipe. So we're gonna go ahead and set him to the side right now, let the glue dry. And I do think we have time for a 4th build. I don't have a watch on my wrist. I don't know why I did that. I'm gonna finish all the builds at the very end. Let's go ahead and knock out build number 4. Sit tight, Frosty. Stay frosty, Frosty. I have that leftover 1x10 from the Christmas tree build, and then I have this leftover 1x8 that I used in a previous build. So these are the 2 boards we're gonna be using for the 4th and final build of this video. But I do wanna make a template for this build, so I'm gonna take this scrap piece of 1/2 inch plywood and cut a strip at 3.5 inches on the table saw here. All right, we have our 3.5 inch strip. We're gonna take it over to the miter saw now. We're gonna cut it right at 15 inches, and then we can start drawing our design on here for the template. Okay, we've got our 15-inch long piece here, 3.5 inches wide. We're gonna measure out about 8 inches right here, and this right here, this basically I want it to curve down and bow around right here. So I'm just gonna roughly draw this out. See if I can freehand this close to what I want. That looks like garbage. Holy cow. Let's try that again. Okay, we have a little bit of a shape here. I don't know if you guys can guess what I'm building quite yet. We're gonna grab the jigsaw, rough it out, and then we're gonna sand it down with the spindle sander. If you guys don't have a spindle sander, just use whatever you have. But we're gonna work this shape until I get it exactly how I want it. Then we can go ahead and use this template to make identical pieces out of the 1x8 and get on with the rest of the build. Just remembered, I have a bandsaw, so I'm gonna use that instead. But if you guys don't have a bandsaw, just use a jigsaw, it'll work just the same. But if you have a bandsaw, why wouldn't you use a bandsaw? I cut the wrong side of the template. Remember I messed up on the one side? That's the side I need to cut. It should still work because I still have, you'll see what I mean in a second, but I'm just gonna restart, I guess. I can hear those sleigh bells jingling. No, we're not building the sleigh actually. This would be more like a sled. It's a sled. Spoiler alert. So now I'm gonna show you how I'm going to transfer this shape, don't mind that, onto the 1x8. First though, I need to cut the 1x8 on the table saw down to 3.5 inches to match the width of the template. I'm gonna trace the template on this new piece. Then we're going to take the jigsaw or the bandsaw. We're gonna rough it out, and then we're going to take a flush cut trim bit with a bearing on the bottom to reference the template. We're gonna go around the entire shape and then do any final touches we need where the router wouldn't fit. You didn't need to use nearly as much double-sided tape as I used on the first one. Oh golly, this stuff is strong. There we go. Got a great deal on some good masks. I've been using these for about a year now. Base camp masks, check out the link in the description along with the free plans. If you guys wanna learn some more tips and tricks like this, I have something called the Woodworkers Playbook, and you guys can check out the link in the description. It teaches you a bunch of cool little tips and tricks, and then also teaches you everything you need to know about tools, how to set them up correctly, and then also how to actually make money with your builds. So check it out in the description below. If you guys are interested, I hope to see you guys inside of the playbook. All right, so now that we have these two lovely looking sled runners, we're gonna go ahead and cut some 9-inch, 2.5 wide boards. So let's go ahead, grab what we have left of that 1x10 and cut those down. I'm gonna keep the one in the middle straight, but I wanna curve the sides in just a little bit, you know, for decorative purposes. Because if we're gonna build something, we might as well build it pretty, right? Cool, so now we can just take a jigsaw or a bandsaw. We're just gonna be cutting off the corners, and then we can use a sander, smooth them out. One-handed, look at that. That's how real woodworkers do it. So I also need a couple support pieces underneath. I'm gonna cut these at 5 3/4 of an inch, and they're gonna be 1 inch wide. All right, let's get our dowel cut, and then I need to cut 2 1-inch holes with the Forstner bit on the front of the sled here. So let's go ahead and knock that out first. I'm gonna cut my dowel to 6 3/4 of an inch. To make sure I'm drilling the 1-inch hole in the exact same spot for both of those sled runners, I'm gonna actually drill a hole right where I want it in the template, and then I can line the template up with these and drill a hole into those, and that'll be my mark for the Forstner bit. We're gonna drill these about 1/2 inch deep. I know that the head on this is 1/2 of an inch, so we're gonna drill down until it's about flush with the top. Before we do any assembly, I do want to get these sanded down real quick, and then we can move on to tacking everything together. You're kidding me. Okay, this is exactly what I was talking about. I even said it earlier. I ended up drilling it on the wrong side anyways. Sometimes I shock myself at how little goes on in my brain. I was supposed to drill on that side because it's a sled. Anyhow, I'm gonna have to make another piece now. So let's do that real quick. We'll be back after this short break. All right, and we're back. So I cut another identical piece. I'm going to drill the same thing as before, a 1-inch hole, only this time on the inside. Then I'm just gonna assemble everything with 1 1/4 inch brad nails, some Titebond 3 wood glue, and then just use the brad nailer to tack everything in. Just for reference, I'm overhanging the side boards 3/8 of an inch on both sides, and then I'm just gonna take that middle board and center it in the middle of those two, just making sure everything is flush and plumb and lined up and looking crispy. Gonna take some plastic wood here. This tube has seen better days, my goodness. Just gonna fill in our holes here. All right, we are officially ready to start finishing these things. So I'm using some leftover paint I have in the shop. You guys finish it with whatever you want to make it look however you want. I'm gonna use some spray paint outside on Frosty. Then I'm gonna use this black paint or kind of like off-gray charcoal paint to paint his hat. I'm gonna use some darker water-based stain on the tree for the front porch decoration. And I'm gonna use some lighter water-based stain for the little sled. If you guys made it this far into the video, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, share it with your friends, check out those free plans in the description, and if you enjoyed this video, I bet you'll like this one on the screen here.